Salt Bae went from salting steaks in front of Messi and Leonardo DiCaprio and becoming one of the internet's most recognizable faces. But that spotlight didn't last, because today, his meme is forgotten, his fame has faded, and his restaurants are barely holding on. My name's Ryan, and we're looking at what's left of Salt Bae's empire. It all began in 2010, when Nusret Göçe opened the first Nusret Steakhouse in Istanbul, where he worked in front of customers, personally presenting and slicing steaks. In 2014, a second location opened in Dubai, marking the early expansion of his business empire. However, it was only in 2017 that Salt Bae became famous around the world. After years of working in front of customers, he came up with his own way of sprinkling salt, which caught everyone's attention through a 36-second Instagram video in January 2017. The video got 2.4 million views in just 2 days and was shared widely across social media, with many people making parodies, with the salt sprinkling gesture even making its way into poses at a soccer or football match. After the video became popular, many celebrities started visiting his restaurant. These included Lionel Messi and Paul Pogba, Leonardo DiCaprio, David Beckham, and others, who all wanted a taste of his $800 steak, or maybe just to see the viral salt sprinkle in action. He even launched a line of merchandise including mugs and t-shirts, which some celebrities apparently could not resist getting their hands on, such as Rihanna. Because he became so popular online, his business grew fast, and by late 2023 to early 2024, he had between 28 and 31 restaurants across multiple countries, including Turkey, the UAE, the US, the UK, Greece, and Saudi Arabia. At its peak, the company had nearly 2,000 employees, and its total revenue grew by 57%, reaching about $225 million. In the US specifically, sales rose by 38% during the same period, reaching $61.7 million in 2022, as the number of US locations grew from 2 to 7. Salt Bae also started the Salt Bae Burger, a more casual version of his restaurant brand. Then in 2019, Salt Bae bought the Park Hyatt Istanbul Maka Palace for about 50 million euros, showing how big his business had become and marking his move into the hotel industry. On social media, his Instagram account grew a lot during this time he was trending, reaching around 50 million followers by around 2022. From just one restaurant in Istanbul, Salt Bae grew into a global chain across many countries, helped by social media and celebrities. However, it's one thing to enjoy the show that made Salt Bae famous, and another to look closely at how the restaurants actually run and how the food really tastes. For a brand that got so much hype, people also expected Salt Bae's food to taste amazing, but it didn't really match its very high prices. Signature items, particularly gold leaf tomahawk steaks, priced between 700 and 1400 pounds, approximately $1,000 or more, were heavily criticized. In a piece for Gentleman's Quarterly, a critic wrote about the New York branch, "The steak is mundane, somewhat tough, and rather bland. The hamburger is overcooked, the tartare is overchopped, the cocktails are terrible, and the water, which we ended up buying, is $9 and does little to quench our thirst." In 2018, the New York Post labeled Nusret public ripoff #1 after a $520 meal for 3 left reviewers still having a snack. It really felt like a ripoff for customers who expected more for such expensive food. In one case, the police were even called after customers got a shocking $5,000 bill after ordering a few large steaks, which, it is important to note, was mostly because of the tasteless gold leaf, while the tomahawk steak by itself only cost about $275. Similarly, BuzzFeed News also stated that the Salt Bae burger concept had no flavor. It's not really about the food, you go to Salt Bae so you can Instagram your dining experience. That apparently was the only appeal. Reviews on platforms like TripAdvisor and Yelp stayed mostly negative into 2024 and 2025, specifically for the New York branch. Meanwhile, the London branch holds a rating of 2.8 out of 5 stars. In fact, it was in London that Salt Bae received its first major reputational blow, as less than a year after being established, his restaurants ranked among the worst places to eat, only doing better than 69 out of 17,542 places. It was especially bad after one reported instance where a group tab that included a tasteless gold steak totaled 37,000 pounds pounds, with a service charge of a whopping £5,000, which is almost $50,000. Because of strong backlash online about the high prices, the London restaurant lowered its prices in July 2023. As a result, the UK company's 2024 records show a pre-tax loss of £5.5 million or $7.2 million compared to a profit of £1.7 million before, which is roughly $2.2 million, with damage to its reputation from pricing and food quality being major reasons. It's also important to note that this profit had already dropped by 31% from the £3.3 million recorded in 2022, which is roughly $4.3 million. All of this showed that Salt Bae's restaurants became known more for the show and high prices than for the actual food, and the problems went beyond just how expensive the meals were to how the restaurants were run. By 2019 and 2023, Salt Bae faced 7 lawsuits and complaints from 9 former staff members across 6 different restaurants in New York and Miami, alleging the company of taking tips, firing workers who complained, discrimination, and having a toxic workplace. In 2019, 4 waiters in New York filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board, saying their tips were taken and that they were fired after speaking up. The case was settled in October 2019 for $230,000. At the same time, a separate 2019 class action lawsuit alleged that the company skimmed 3% off the top of tips before distributing them to employees. That suit eventually settled in July 2020 for $300,000. A third major case involved tipped employees who challenged the restaurant for paying them less than the required federal minimum and overtime wages and forcing them to participate in an illegal tip pool with non-tipped employees. According to the employees, the large service charges on receipts were supposed to be their tips and should not have been shared with others or used to pay the restaurant's own wage costs. However, in March 2022, the court ruled in favor of Salt Bae, saying the service charge was not considered a tip under the law and could be used to help pay minimum wage and overtime. Out of the 7 lawsuits, only 2 were known to have been settled, costing a total of $500,000, while 1 case was won by the company. The results of the other cases were not made public or are unclear. However, these 7 cases were not the only problems. A 2023 Business Insider report found many more complaints from workers that did not turn into lawsuits. Female and non-Turkish staff alleged favoritism toward Turkish employees, harassment, and strange demands, including pressure to wear dresses that looked like they were going to the club. Grillers also reported mistreatment from Salt Bae himself, describing his aggressive managerial style in which he frequently cursed and blamed them for colleagues' mistakes. One bartender even compared him to a dictator, saying staff never knew if they would be fired before the end of their shift. And despite the image of luxury surrounding Salt Bae, reports claim that he treated his restaurants as an extension of his home and even asked employees for massages. The list of complaints goes on, showing that what happened behind the scenes did not match the fancy image shown to the customers online. In fact, workers said the restaurants were not really luxurious in terms of service and food, and only felt that way when Salt Bae himself was there to take photos and perform his signature move or other acts.
Yes, sir.
That said, these issues were not enough to force Salt Bae to reflect on whether he was truly a serious figure in the restaurant industry or simply an Instagram sensation vulnerable to the next controversy. During the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, Salt Bae had one of the most damaging moments to his public image. After Argentina beat France, Salt Bae went onto the field during the team celebration and broke an important rule. FIFA rules say that only players from the winning team and heads of state are allowed to touch the trophy. Because of this, FIFA quickly started an investigation into how Salt Bae got access to the field. While the investigation was still ongoing, FIFA president Gianni Infantino unfollowed Salt Bae on Instagram shortly after the incident. Even if Salt Bae didn't know the rule or could be forgiven, it was still clear that he was being intrusive and disrespectful to the player's big moment, and it also looked like he was trying to promote himself. Maybe he was trying to recreate or beat his old Instagram fame, no one really knows. And even though he apologized, it only came 3 years later.
This is the accident.
my mistake. Before I don't know the rules. Now I know the rules.
But it wasn't just the act of touching the trophy that was cringe. It was also the fact that he kept pestering the Argentina team to notice him. Even Messi was focused on his team's victory and not on the presence of a wannabe restaurant industry figure trying to celebrate with them. However, Messi eventually ended up taking a selfie with him after being repeatedly approached. Because of the entire incident, people online, including Penguin Zero, shared their takes on the situation.
I just want to show you some of his worst moments here because man, it is so bad. By far the worst one is him trying to get Messi's attention. So you can see him kind of like harassing him and yanking on him to try and get Messi to acknowledge him, kind of like a toddler trying to get his dad's attention. He doesn't give a fuck about Salt Bae pestering him for like a photo for his Instagram. It's so embarrassing to look at.
Ultimately showing that Salt Bae, who became famous because of the internet, was now getting criticized for the same online crowd that once made him popular. Salt Bae is the kind of guy to blow out the candles at your birthday party. This entire drama is the embodiment of the bro thinks he's on the team meme. This moment became the final nail in the coffin, putting not just Salt Bae's online image, but also his restaurant business in serious trouble. After this, things mostly went downhill for him. On social media, public perception has shifted from a fun, viral chef to a cringe fall-off. As one comment on his Instagram post puts it, created by social media, destroyed by social media. Even with the backlash and being unfollowed by the FIFA president, Salt Bae's Instagram followers stayed around 50 million after the incident. At first, this might seem like a good thing, like he avoided losing everything. But it also shows that he is becoming less popular since his account is no longer growing. In fact, his Instagram has recently been going down, losing around 2 million followers from 2023 to today. For an account with 51.6 million followers, his engagement rate is only about 0.02%, which is very low. Usually, accounts like this get around 1% or more. Because of this, he earns less than $200,000 per month from Instagram, which is much lower than other influencers with similar followers, who often earn hundreds of thousands to over millions of dollars per month. As for his YouTube channel, it only has 173,000 subscribers and has not shown any real growth or activity since 2022. For someone who rose to fame through social media, Salt Bae appears to have failed to maintain consistent growth in followers and engagement, something crucial for sustaining a brand that heavily relies on his personal image. And without the luster of his social media presence, his actual business problems soon followed. In 2024 and 2025, Salt Bae faced a significant contraction across several markets, shrinking from a peak of around 31 restaurants in 2024 to approximately 17 to 20 locations by mid-2025. With almost half of his restaurants gone, it became much harder to keep earning the $255 million he once made globally. In the United States, 5 restaurants had closed by June 2025, including one in Beverly Hills, Las Vegas, Boston, Dallas, and one New York location, while only the Midtown New York and Miami branches remaining operational. Because of this, Salt Bae lost £6.6 million by writing down the value of his closed US restaurants, approximately $8.7 million. At the same time, his London restaurant made only about £10 million in 2024, about $13.2 million, which is £4.3 million less than before, as customers stopped buying his £680 steak. That said, Salt Bae had to keep his business going in other places, like in Mexico City and Milan, Italy, where he focused on rich customers and tourists. According to his Instagram, Salt Bae also plans to expand further in Saudi Arabia and open a Salt Bae burger at Dubai Mall.
Salt Bae's Nusret brand just confirmed a new opening at Dubai Mall for 2026.
However, with recent tensions in the Middle East, fewer tourists and higher costs could hurt these new and current businesses. So even with his efforts, it may take a long time before he can earn as much as he did before. As for the lawsuits, only the discrimination lawsuit, in which a female bartender alleged she was asked to wear revealing clothing and was later fired after complaining, remains ongoing. Meanwhile, new legal problems also came up. In December 2025, Salt Bae lost a 2-year case where he tried to stop another business from using the word salt. The UK Intellectual Property Office said the word salt is too common to be owned by by one person. Because of this, Salt Bae had to pay £1,600 in legal costs. Trying to stay relevant on social media and in his business, Salt Bae seems to be hoping for good headlines, but instead, the news about him keeps hurting his reputation. In June 2025, he was reportedly denied entry to the official after-party following the UEFA Champions League in Munich. Many observers linked the incident directly to his behavior 3 years earlier during the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The fact he thought he could walk in there after the World Cup stunt is insane. However, Salt Bae denied being rejected or ejected. In a statement, he explained, "After the Champions League final match, we came to the hotel with the UEFA bus. The reason we were there at that moment was the thousands of fans who wanted to see us there." He further claimed, "While I was waiting for my car to go to my hotel due to the intensity, I was directed by Mr. Doorman with my back turned in front of the door. All the news that I was not admitted to the party is unfounded." Despite his statement, public skepticism remained. The man is an attention whore, got to stay relevant somehow to overcharge his customers. He should have just focused on having a chain of decent to high quality, non-gimmicky steakhouses. While he has not been fully banned from football events, the damage from the FIFA incident, where he is now called a serial World Cup offender, appears to have reduced his access to official celebrations. This may not have been the headline he wanted at the UCL 2024, but it happened anyway. Now, people are already waiting to see what he will do next, especially with the 2026 World Cup. According to Yahoo Sports, Salt Bae is expected to reappear, especially since the Manhattan branch of his restaurant is located just 9 miles from MetLife Stadium, the venue for the 2026 World Cup final. With this prediction, we can only hope that Salt Bae finally reads the room and decides to make a positive headline for once. But then again, he should have learned by now that restaurants succeed because of good food and good service, not because the owner tries to be the main character at big events. In the meantime, Salt Bae continues to focus on his restaurant's operations on the ground. In March 2026, he reportedly flew to Dubai to support staff and oversee operations at their restaurant and emphasized that his business remains open and operating, particularly amid heightened tensions in the Middle East. And on social media, he continues to rely on his signature knife tricks more than the actual food itself to grab attention and draw in viewers. It seems like Salt Bae's theatrics is still the main ingredient. Whether that ever changes, only time will tell. If you like this video, you'll probably enjoy these next ones as well, and don't forget to subscribe.